financial support. That's happened in every other instance where power sharing was returned after a period of when it's up in the air. So I think that we would inevitably have seen this kind of package going to Northern Ireland, even if the result of the election had been decisive and there wasn't a need for this confidence and supply arrangement.
We kept hearing from the Tories over and over again that there is no magic money tree. Well, the good news is that somebody's found one, because, you know, otherwise where has this £1 billion suddenly come from?
We are committed to sound public finances. That means that we will always recognise that overspending today means that future generations have to pay our debts. But I'm convinced that this package, and remember it's got a focus on capital spending, and there's widespread agreement across the political parties on the importance of capital spending. I think this package is affordable within the spending plans that we've set out. I mean, over the last few years, the government has demonstrated that where there is pressure in particular areas, whether it's business rates in England or more resources for social care, we are prepared to amend our plans to deploy extra resources where it's affordable and where it's needed.
What deals do you suppose have been done that we haven't heard about, that have been done on a nod and a wink or beneath the table or in whispers outside the room the negotiations are happening?
Both sides have been pretty clear that they've published the totality of what's been agreed, and it's very clear that, you know, there are limits to this arrangement. It's not a coalition. It's not an agreement to vote together on all issues. So with a whole range of issues, there'll be a process of negotiation in Parliament between the Conservatives and, frankly, all other parties in order to build support for what we want to do. A hung Parliament means we can only proceed by if we manage to get support across parties. I think working together is probably what the public really want us to do, whether it's with the DUP or with Labour or with the Lib Dems. We want to get as much of our manifesto through as possible, and so we'll be engaging with other political parties to make the case for the changes we want to happen.
Thanks very much for your time. That's the Conservative MP Theresa Villiers, former Northern Ireland Secretary. It's just gone 12:20. Sarah's here. What have you got for us this afternoon, Sarah?
Another former Northern Ireland Secretary, as it happens. Sir Peter Hain will be with us, as well as Theresa May's right-hand man, Damien Green, to pick apart this DUP deal. You've probably seen some of the comments coming from other devolved leaderships. Colin Jones has just made a statement saying it's a straight bung. So we'll be asking what the checks and balances are going to be on this money. How will that affect the Northern Ireland piece or talks that are going on at the moment? They've got a deadline of Thursday to get back round the table together, so we'll be examining all of that in detail. Also, we've got John Watson and Jenny Gow on the Vettel-Hamilton bust-up. Lynn Jones is our big guest after 2. She's a psychiatrist, spent 25 years working with survivors of war and disaster. She's been everywhere from the Balkans to Iraq to tsunami-infected Indonesia to the jungle in Calais. She's with us for a half hour after 2. And TV Club after 3 o'clock, we are reviewing Glow and Preacher. Plus, we have a big preview for you of the summer's best programmes coming up.
Thank you very much. It's Monday, and it would be time for this. Martin Lewis is here, hoping to save you some money. What do you got for us today, Martin?
Well, it's all about holidays. We're getting close to that big summer getaway time, so I want to open up the books to anyone who wants to know what's the best way to get their money for holiday this summer. We'll be going through whether you need a credit card, a prepaid card, you just want to get your cash out there. Also, I've brought with me the answer to the 16 to 25-year-old rail card that I didn't know last week because I fluffed on the time. I said I had a solution and I didn't, so I shall be publicly berating myself and giving you the correct answer for that today. And of course, as always, Ask Martin. We'll be doing it on anything you want to know about saving money. Ask me a question, I will do my best to answer it, or at least make something plausible up.
What time exactly will we get round to this self-flagellation you're going to perform for us? I'm looking forward to listening
Probably
to that.
self-flagellate the entire way through the programme if you really wanted me to, but I'm not sure it'd be a great listening experience.
Well, I'm not so sure. Martin is founder of MoneySavingExpert.com. Though, of course, plenty of other consumer price, you know, they're all available. The numbers to get in touch with Martin are 08085 909 693 for your phone call. Calls are free from mobiles and landlines. Text 85058. Text charge at your standard network rate or tweet at BBC 5 Live. Holiday money, Martin. Where are the best deals to be had at the moment, or where are the worst deals, if you want to go that way with it?
Oh, the worst deals are really easy. Let's start with that very easy one. Absolutely no question, without doubt, the worst way to get your holiday money is at the airport or the ferry port. They have you as a captive customer. They've probably got high rents as well, they would argue, is the reason you get such poor rates. But easily, £1 now will often get you less than €1. And it should be getting you the spot rate. And let's define terms at the start of this programme. The spot rate is the money markets rate, effectively the perfect rates for currency. So right now, spot rate, £1 buys you €1.14. Spot rate, £1 buys you $1.27. Your holiday rates will tend to be lower than that. And what my aim is to get you closer to the spot rate when you exchange your currency. So that's sort of the basis that we're factoring on. And then, of course, you've got to throw into that the when should you buy. Are you best to buy today? Are you best to wait? What should you do? And how you work all that. And that's the big debate to be had here. My general solution is plastic of one type or another. But if you like cash, there are ways to do that as well.
When you pay for something on a credit card in the EU, and whoever you're paying holds up the machine and says, do you want to do it in euros or pounds? What is the correct answer to that?
Well, had you been watching my show the other night, Adrian, that was my break bumper quiz question, and I was dressed up as Laurel and Hardy to do it. And as hopefully people who are listening...
I don't like to think of you broadcasting with other people and
I'm sorry.
having names
I'm
like
sorry.
that.
It was a little...
Don't taunt me with it. It's
I'm
cruel.
sorry. A little bromance jealousy going on there. And I was with a lady that day as well. I mean, it's all very confusing.
It's getting worse.
Yeah. So, look, the answer's very simple. If you pay in euros and you're in the European Union, then your plastic is responsible for doing the conversion into pounds. If you pay in pounds, then the overseas cash machine or the overseas shop's bank is responsible for doing that conversion. Now, I did once on holiday, and I have done it check before. I did once, Mrs. Money Saving Expert had a wonderful time when I went round, because I decided just to check this out, 17 different ATMs and shops to see what rate they would charge me at the moment and compared it to the spot rate. And what was fascinating about it, I'll get to the answer in a minute, but let's give the story first. What was fascinating about it is, on every occasion, even the best overseas conversion rate was no better than the worst UK plastic conversion rate on debit and credit cards. So the best rate abroad was about the same as the worst rate in the UK. So my answer is pretty simple. Pay in the overseas currency, so euros, euros, euros. If you're in America, dollars, dollars, dollars. Do not pay in pounds. Rely on your UK plastic to do the conversion for you. And this gets more so because I looked on an ATM machine abroad that once told me it had zero commission added to the exchange rate. Now, on that basis, you would think, well, if I take this out, it said zero commission if I convert it and pay in pounds, I'm going to get a good exchange rate. And this is where they get really what's the word? Duplicitous.
Duplicitous?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
And in fact, I said it 3 times.
Crooked would be
I said it 3
word
times, so I'll go for triplicitous. And because it said 0% commission is added, but it was to that bank's wholesale rate. Now, that bank's wholesale rate is not the same as the spot rate. So just to give you an example, let's say the rate today is €1.14. Well, they were saying, our wholesale rate, you only get 110, but we won't charge a commission on it. Well, you've already loaded it into your exchange rate. It doesn't matter. You're not adding commission on top. The exchange rate's awful. And even comparing that was far worse than just using my plastic. So in a roundabout way, what I've got down to is if they say, do you want to pay in pounds or euros? Euros, 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 euros. Did you get that? Euros.
I got that.
And I guarantee you, we'll be doing this programme next year. Well, we might not. We might both be sacked. But if we're doing this programme next year, someone will get in touch and ask that question, as they did last year and the year before and the year before that. Euros.
OK, and if that changes, we'll be the first to let you know. Rosemary, where are you off to? Thanks for calling in.
Yes, hello. I'm going to Canada.
Right, good choice.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm going next month, and I just want to know, I've got my credit card, that's not a problem.
What credit card?
I've got the Halifax, the good one.
Halifax Clarity, OK.
Halifax, the good one. That'd be a good name for a credit card. You've chanced upon something there,
but she's right. Let me do it in a different... Now, I'll change my tone. Now I know what you've got. What credit card, Rosemary?
Halifax.
Halifax Clarity Card, which is one of the top overseas specialist cards for spending abroad. It has no non-sterling exchange rate fee. So if you spend £100 worth of Canadian dollars, you will get virtually the spot rate. You'll actually get either the MasterCard wholesale rate, which is very close to the spot rate. I mean, smidgen's not worth thinking about more. So you'll be getting the perfect rate on the day you spend on that card. Carry on with your question.
Yes, that's great. It's already with my passport.
Perfect.
I need to take some cash, so I wanted to know, should I get my Canadian dollars here or there?
Okay, so now, because you've got a Halifax Clarity Card, what you could do is when you got to the airport, you could put that in an overseas ATM. You will pay an interest charge. I presume that you're paying the card off in full every month, of course.
Oh, yes.
So we're not worried about interest here. But if you withdraw cash on an overseas ATM on most credit cards, you do pay interest even if you pay it off in full. Now that on the Halifax Clarity, depending exactly what interest rates you've got, is roughly about £1 to £1.50 per £100. Now, because you're getting a very good exchange rate, you could probably, if you worked hard and went to a comparison site, just about beat that, including that fee and getting your cash here. But I would say that unless you're talking about getting hundreds of pounds or thousands of pounds, really, if you're just talking 100 quid, 150 quid, because you just want some cash when you get there, is that it, or do you need more?
Yeah, just the odd card, the odd, tip or whatever, things like that.
Well, in that case, frankly, I mean, we're talking pennies difference. So if you've got that card, I would, if it were me, and let me answer it that way rather than telling you what to do. If it were me, I would arrive in Canada, I would go at the airport, I'd put that particular card into the cash machine, I would take out all the cash I thought I needed for the holiday, as long as it wasn't too much that you'd be insecure, because if you take it out, it's much easier that way. Yeah. So you take it out, you take 200, 300, 400 Canadian dollars out, and I just do it that way. If you ask me, is that the perfect route? We might be able to get you $1 or two more with a bit of hard work.
No, that sounds perfect. I just, because of the pound, I wasn't sure. Yeah. With the pound being so low.
Now, the only other thing we could do, and you're a good case study, so if you forgive me, I shall draw away from your question and just talk to you in a more general terms. The other question, of course, is what will happen to that rate between now and then, and that's now. I do not know the answer to that, and nobody knows the answer to that. And anyone who tells you they know the answer to that is lying. And even if they're proved correct in the long run that they said the rate was going to get worse, and it does get worse, it doesn't mean they knew. It just means that they happen to have guessed on a 50-50 rate, and it went the way that they wanted it to. But if you were worried about the rate, which it doesn't sound like you are, what you could do is you could lock in now at a perfect rate, and I'll talk more about how you can do that, half of your currency and leave half till you get there. But it sounds to me like you're just going to go and enjoy yourself.
Yes, I think I will.
Right,
yes.
so as you've got one of those specialist cards, take some cash out when you get to the airport, and the Canadian airport will definitely have a cash machine. The only thing just to watch for, I haven't been to Canada since I was a grown-up. I'm pretty sure Canadian cash machines are totally fine with UK credit cards. I know American are. Japan aren't. By the way, if anyone who goes to Japan, you have to look for international ATMs. I'm sure Canada's fine. I'm sure one of our listeners will have been to Canada recently and put their card in a hole in the wall. If you did, just let us know that UK cards are absolutely accepted there for cash. I'm sure it'll be no problem, and we'll get you that answer in a couple of minutes.
Brilliant.
Rosemary, thank you very much. Have a great time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Rosemary from London, who's off to Canada. More from Martin coming up shortly. Do get your questions in on just about anything you want. Maybe you've got some travel money tips. You were good on your tips last week about all sorts of things. Text us on 85058 or call on 08085 909 693.
On digital, online, smartphone and tablet. This is BBC 5 Live.
With the headlines, I'm Jo Critcher. A deal's been finalised which will see the DUP back the Conservative government in the Commons. It means Theresa May should be able to push through key votes with the support of Democrat Unionist MPs. The deal includes an extra £1 billion for Northern Ireland. The government says checks on buildings following the Grenfell Tower fire are being carried out as quickly as possible. Cladding's being removed from some of the 60 high-rises in England where it's been found to be unsafe. A minute's silence has been held to remember the victims of last week's van attack in North London. Makram Ali, who was 51, died in the incident in Finsbury Park. 11 other people were injured. Music producer Jonathan King has appeared in court charged with 18 historical sexual offences relating to 9 boys. The 72-year-old was bailed until another hearing next month. His lawyer says he'll contest the allegations. Sport now with Will Perry.
Chelsea are close to completing the signing of the France international midfielder Temue Bakayoko from Monaco. Discussions have taken place. A deal could be done as early as next week. Liverpool have rejected an £11 million bid from Napoli for Alberto Moreno. They want £15 million for the Spanish defender. His former club Sevilla are also interested. League One Northampton have been taken over this morning, I should say, by Chinese sports company 5U Sport. Let's find out what's happening on the opening day of the Eastbourne International Tennis. Live to Eleanor Aldroyd.
Two Brits in action at the moment, Will. Kyle Edmund has just taken the second set to level up against the American Donald Young, having failed to capitalise on 4 break points in the first set, much more ruthless in the second, and it's 1-1 in the third. Naomi Brody dropped the first set against Kristina Pliskova of the Czech Republic, but she's 5-2 up in a second set tiebreak. One of the friendliest of tournaments, already boasting 8 of the world's top 10 women, also has Novak Djokovic discovering the delights of Eastbourne for the first time. He's practising just behind me in a bright orange shirt and gathering quite a lot of attention, it would be fair to say.
Thanks, Ellie. Marcus Willis, meanwhile, is just getting his first round Wimbledon qualifier underway against Andre Martin of Slovakia at Roehampton. You can watch the tennis on the BBC Sport website and the red button right now. 7-time Grand Slam winner John McEnroe claims that Serena Williams would be nowhere near the top of the men's game. The American has won 23 Grand Slam titles, but speaking to the American broadcaster National Public Radio, McEnroe believes it would be far from easy for her to compete on the ATP Tour.
If she played the men's circuit, she'd be like 700 in the world. That doesn't mean I don't think Serena's like an incredible player. I do, but there's, you know, the reality of what would happen on a given day. Serena could beat some players, I believe, because she's so incredibly strong mentally. But if she had to just play the circuit, the men's circuit, that would be an entirely different story.
Let's pop back to Taunton for the Women's World Cup. How's Australia-West Indies looking, Henry Moran?
Australia, the reigning 50-over world champions, taking on West Indies, the reigning T20 world champions. West Indies, after a little bit of confusion at the toss, are batting 140 for 3 is the score in the 36th over. Stefani Taylor, the captain, and Deidre Dottin at the crease. They are the key partnership for the West Indies. If they can get firing, there's no reason why they can't head towards the 250 mark at the back end of this innings. 140 for 3 is the West Indies score as another boundary clatters towards us here in the media centre.
Commentary on 5 Live Sports Extra. Warwickshire's opening batsman and former captain Ian Westwood has announced his retirement with immediate effect after a 15-year playing career. Kent, meanwhile, have signed the New Zealand all-rounder Jimmy Neesham for this summer's T20 Blast. The Island and Lions centre Robbie Henshaw says that all the players in the squad can see a path to the Test team after the call-ups for Liam Williams and Elliot Daly. They both played for the midweek tour side before Saturday's first Test against New Zealand. Henshaw will line up against the Hurricanes tomorrow morning.
Liam Williams had a brilliant game and Elliot Daly also had a brilliant game last Tuesday, and people were kind of shocked obviously to hear them play 4 days later, but you stand out, play well, and you will be looked at and maybe chosen. So I suppose to give everyone good confidence. You know, everyone's eager to put in a good performance.
And Britain's Lauren Williams and Peter Longobardi Radford have both missed out on World Taekwondo medals today, losing in the quarterfinals in South Korea.
This is BBC 5 Live on digital, online, smartphone and tablet.
Let's take a look at the roads now in Greater Manchester. On the M60 clockwise, there are long delays. 2 lanes are closed between junction 1 for Stockport Pyramid and junction 3 for Kingsway. Traffic's currently queuing back to junction 25. That's while emergency repairs are undertaken following an earlier accident. In Worcestershire, on the M5 southbound, traffic slow between junction 5 for Droitwich and junction 6 for Wanton Way. That's after an earlier accident. In Essex, on the M25 clockwise, there are further delays. 2 lanes are closed. Traffic's queuing from just before junction 30 for Lakeside back to the M25 to junction 28. That's because of recovery work after an earlier accident. Joe Critcher, 5 Live Travel.
Get more from BBC 5 Live with 5 Live podcasts.
The great joy of this podcast is we can indulge in being nerdy.
If people didn't want it, we wouldn't be doing it. It's as simple as that.
How much you read into that, I think, is tricky.
Just released the incredible true crime podcast, Beyond Reasonable Doubt.
It was all about Michael, like he was the victim, and now Michael is alive. Kathleen has been 15 years in her grave.
I would never have done anything to hurt her. I am innocent of these charges, and we will prove it in court.
Download at bbc.co.uk/5live or using your usual podcast app. Get more from BBC 5 Live. This is BBC 5 Live, available on the BBC iPlayer radio app. 5 Live Daily with Adrian Childs.
Just gone 20 to 1. We're heavily into lunch money, Martin. Plenty of money texts, holiday money texts coming in, Martin. Sarah says, going on a cruise to several different countries, Italy, Croatia, Slovenia, Montenegro. There's a bureau de change on the ship, but is it cheaper to get it before I go or just do it in pounds on board? It's a British ship, so it'll work in pounds.
Well, for spending on the ship, if you're allowed to pay in pounds, I would pay in pounds if it were a British ship. When you're going into those other countries, I wouldn't touch the cruise ship bureau de change. Is almost certainly going to be a horrendous rate, as most hotels and most cruise ships are. And if you're going to multiple countries, you could do it before you go, or you could just get yourself a specialist overseas credit card. We mentioned Halifax Clarity. There's also the Barclay card, travel card. If you've got a poor credit score, the Aqua Reward card. Best thing to do is an eligibility check to see which of the 10 specialist overseas cards you're most likely to get. Or alternatively, the Monzo card is a prepaid card that works like an overseas credit card in that it gives you the best rate on the day and doesn't add anything to the exchange rate and has low fees. I suspect it's a loss leader for the moment as they build a database, but it's very cheap. You have to work that via an app, and it's a prepaid card, so you don't need a credit score to get it, which is why I mention it. You have to work it via an app, though, and there is a waiting list to get one, but I'd do something like that. Adrian, while we're on...
Can I just say, yeah. Sorry, to Sarah, I mean, I go to Croatia a lot, and it'll be the same in Slovenia. You can use euros everywhere, as long as you know in your head what the rate is. I mean, every waiter, you can say, can I pay in euros? They say yes, and then they just tell you what it is. They can divide it by, I think it's divided by 9 in the case of the Croatian kuna. So, I mean, you can pay with cash. I shouldn't be advising if I said something.
No, I think it's fine. The only issue with that, Adrian, is that I would suspect if you're not paying in the national currency of the country, you won't get as good an exchange rate as if you change directly into it. But maybe you can do that next time, like I do it on my holiday. There's your challenge. Next time you go to Croatia, do a comparison. If you change your money at the best rate to Croatian currency versus you doing it in euros, which would give you better value.
All right, you can come with me. I know that's what you're angling for.
But I just want to do the nice face and the nasty face of social media now. I've had 2 things I've just seen. So first of all, Lisa got in touch on Facebook to say, to talk about, Martin, you saved me at least £400 for a 30-day car rental in the USA. I got standalone car insurance for £90 annual worldwide plus trip, which is just a warning for anyone going away. When you get to the desk to pick up your car hire, they will try and sell you these excess insurance policies. You have insurance, but effectively they all have a big excess. You have to pay the first £500 or £1,000 of an accident, and they'll try and charge you up to €20 a day for that excess insurance, even if the car hire is actually cheaper. But if you go to a website like Money Maxim now, and you can get a standalone policy before you go that covers the same thing. So you'll have to leave a deposit on your credit card when you get there. It has to be a credit card, not prepay, not debit card. It has to be in the name of the person who booked the car hire. And they'll ask for a deposit of €1,200 or something to cover the excess. But if you do have an accident, you then claim the excess back from your car hire excess policy, and that's where the £400 savings comes from. That was the nice one. Now the nasty one. Listen to this, Adrian.
Come on.
Tom Gold, you know who you are on Twitter, writes, "Hi Pants. I'm looking into saving on car rental in France using the Amex Platinum, which covers insurance. Any tips?" Now, regular listeners will know that recently we became Rants and Pants on the back of a rapper talking about the election, and we decided they were our new names.
Yeah.
Yet Tom has written to me saying, "Hi Pants."
Yeah, well, he's got his bants and his pants.
I am not Pants. I am Rants.
I'm Pants.
Tom, I'm tempted not to answer your question after your behaviour. You should be listening more carefully, but I will quickly. I'd be very careful on your suggestion about using Amex Platinum to provide car rental insurance. From memory, and I'd have to double check, that's travel accident insurance that only covers you in the event of an accident. It is not the same as travel insurance, which is what I think you're suggesting it is. Do check your policy before relying on it. I think you'll need to be quite careful on that one. I don't know which exact card you've got, so it's difficult for me. But on most credit cards that do offer some form of travel insurance, it's only if you have an accident in transit you're talking about. It's not general travel insurance, and you shouldn't think of it as being the same thing. Banks that offer free travel insurance, they do tend to be actual travel insurance policies. There aren't many of them left, so just be careful about that. I think you might be confusing your policies, and I did that even though you called me pants.
Some more holiday money questions. I mean, it's a little quick fire round here. There's some similar kind of answers we've given before. Paul says, is it just as safe and cost effective to draw money from a cash machine debit card in Spain, or does it work out more expensive because I only draw €300 a time?
No, look, if you're using a debit card in Spain and it's not a specialist overseas card, first of all, assuming that you press the pay in euros button when you're on the cash machine, you will have a roughly, generally it's about 2.75% non-sterling exchange rate fee. So that'll be added onto the rate. You'll lose 2.75%. And they will also generally charge you a cash withdrawal fee on top. That could be a fiver, could be more. It's a percentage of what you take out. So it isn't particularly cost effective. It's not awful, but it isn't particularly cost effective. If you got yourself a specialist card, one of the 10 specialist cards, credit cards, and paid that off in full, it would be cheaper than using your debit card abroad. But there are also tools online which will tell you what your specific debit or credit card charges, and actually there are apps as well that do it, and so that what you'll know is if you have 2 or 3 different cards, which one's likely to be cheapest. Although the honest truth is, if they're not a specialist card, then none of them will be particularly cheap.
Phil in Suffolk says he and his wife are planning a 3-week holiday to southern India. We hope to spend some time with our daughter and son-in-law doing voluntary work, probably stay in a hotel apartment, but the majority of the time we expect to travel off the beaten track. I mean, this is a specialist question for a sort of a travel finance person, I suppose. I mean, unless you've been there recently, Martin, do you recommend we only take hard currency, or would you suggest we use a travel card? If so, which one?
Well, I don't think that it's an exclusive question. I mean, again, if you've got a travel card or even a Monzo card, you can withdraw cash from an ATM. Now, if you're off the beaten track, you won't always be off the beaten track because you have to arrive at an airport if you're flying somewhere, so there will be somewhere to get cash out. And I would suggest that you probably do have enough cash when you're off the beaten track, that you want to stay secure. Think about how much you're carrying with you, because these days, you know, traveller's checks don't really exist. It's prepaid cards that have taken their place, and there are some good ones of those. So I would take a bit of both. I mean, personally, if I were doing it, I'd take my travel credit card because it's just easier, and then I'd withdraw some cash to have with me as I travelled along out there. Again, that's one of those that we need travel knowledge. So people who've been to the remote parts of that area of India recently, are there places in the shops and restaurants where you can pay by card, or is it cash? Is cash king?
If
that's
so,
more of a travel
which
question.
cash? I mean, do you want to have dollars if you?
No, I would go with Indian currency. I'd stick with it.
Okay.
Generally, I mean, people try and, you know, it's only in economies that are really, really wobbling where they want dollars or to a lesser extent euros, you know. And at the time, the Indian economy, I suspect, is pretty strong. People in India, you know, it's going to work. It's going to work reasonably well. So my instinct would tell me no, you don't need dollars there. But someone could get in touch. I haven't been to India, so I don't know.
Des has called in. Des has got quite a story for you, Martin. Go on, you haven't had a particularly enjoyable holiday, Des, I am led to believe.
Yes, good afternoon to you both, and thank you for taking my call.
Not at all, go on.
I had a rat problem in my room over 4 days.
Whereabouts were you? Which country?
I was in a Greek island.
Right, we heard correctly, rat, did you say?
Yes, R-A-T,
right.
as in Roland.
So you got there, you rented a flat, and then...
Well, it's just a room, and a room in a hotel.
Right.
Self-catering.
Okay. And when did the rat make itself known?
Well, I hadn't seen it for 4 days. I actually thought that I'd let it in one night, and the management seemed to go along with me. But apparently, a woman last week who was there 3 days before me and left 3 days before me. She said, she was moved from one room because there was a rat in it. I said, what room number? She said, blah. I said, same room. I said, what's happened in between? I woke up the very first morning with stomach pains. Consequently, that was a Monday. I had to go to see in between I managed to get that rat when I thought it had got in just overnight. I had to go to the hospital on Sunday. Unbeknownst that I may have caught something from this rat, the doctor gave me like a urine test, blood test, X-rays, heart monitor, and he said, "Are you on a pacemaker?" I said no, and it's like his readings was wrong, and he gave me another monitor test, and he said, "You have microbe." I said, "What, you mean germ?" And are you vomiting? Are you enteritis? I said, "No, I've just got a severe stomach pain."
Hang on, did you see the rat then?
Yes, because it was keeping me awake. I didn't know. I thought it was in a cavity wall, but when I got up, this thing was stuck to either